I think there's several different ways to take all of this portal news for Auburn. We're going to look at both sides of it.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Brian Smith, host of The Portal, that is Locked On's recruiting, transfer portal, NIL show. Goodness gracious, what a time of year for you, Brian. Auburn, at the time of us discussing or having this discussion, 29 players in the portal. I believe Deuce Knight was the 29th, might have been 28th. It's a lot. It's a lot. And this is something where I think there's differing opinions on this, both throughout college football and throughout the Auburn fan base. I do think most Auburn fans have pivoted a little bit with how they're viewing all of this as more and more information comes out about what has been happening over the past few years, Brian. But when you cover the transfer portal, you're covering all of these guys who are entering. Obviously, Auburn has some big ones. Cam Coleman's going to be highly coveted. Deuce Knight's going to be highly coveted. We'll see, which teams go after certain guys. But your overall assessment does not seem positive based on a tweet that you had earlier in the week. I believe it was following Cam Coleman's announcement. You said that this has changed the way that you view or think about Alex Golesh so far. What was the thought behind that?
Golesh is not the issue, but he's the one that'll get the blame or the fame because he's the head coach. Fair or not, but in today's world, it's about NIL, it's about contracts and all the stuff that we quite honestly hate as fans and media members. And if you're not going to support Alex Golesh, even out of the gate, by keeping some of these guys, and I know they've tried, like the Coleman thing, it's just unfortunate. That just didn't work out. It's not like Auburn didn't give him a good offer. He just wanted to bounce, whatever. But several other guys, they couldn't come to any kind of agreement with. And it's a depth thing as much as, like, this, the SEC is a warpath that you have to go through every year. Like, I don't care if you've got Vince Lombardi in his prime, you got to have players. So, and I like Golesh's offense. From everything I've been told by people who have been around, like, he's a good coach, but this could be a disaster next year. And you put him behind the 8 ball.
Brian, like, obviously you know this, and the way people are talking about Auburn right now, if you're just going into the context of on the field, which we all know it's larger than that, and I think when you look at each of these isolated entries in a vacuum, one at a time, with the exception of Cam Coleman, I think you can look at all of them and be like, yeah, I understand why this happened, whether it's the player's decision, whether it's a money decision, whether it's an Auburn decision. All of them really kind of make sense. There might be one or two where I'm still kind of scratching my head at it, but for the most part, it's like, okay, most of these make sense. So when you zoom out and you're like, okay, but it's almost 30. Like, what does that look like? That's one part of my response to that. Then the other part is when people talk about the mass exodus, like you got to have players, they are going to get players out of the portal too, obviously. And I think that's something that is obvious, but when people kind of jump on Auburn, usually from the national or the conference level, that part does seem to get left out. Auburn's going to go into this with more money to spend than almost anyone because a lot of their payroll is now entering the portal.
My only concern with that, and you're technically correct, is that you're not going to have as much team chemistry. And as we both know, we talked about the last 2 years on this very show, you're probably going to overpay in the portal to get what you want. Now, Cam Coleman, again, it was smart of you to mention, like, that's its own entity. That's unfortunate. I'm not blaming Auburn for that from what I've heard. Just is what it is. But again, it still changes my perception of goal. Because, like, you need guys that the other team has to account for on every play. There's nobody.
Where does it come into fact with team chemistry? It's like this team chemistry won 10 games in the last 2 years.
Just people knowing each other and being comfortable. I mean, I think the play calling is, we unfortunately discussed. had a lot to do with it. How many games did Auburn lose by 7 points or less the last 2 years?
I mean, pretty much all of them. Yeah.
I mean, Auburn might have been number one in the nation in those.
If not, I'm sure they were
close.
Up there.
But anyway, oh yeah, very close. I think Auburn's close. But then, like, as soon as we did that podcast where I picked them to win 10 games, the exodus began. It's like my timing could not have been more horrific. And it's just been a show of every time I put on social media, it's like, oh, Auburn lost another good player. So it makes you a little nervous. And then when Cam went out, I'm like, okay, they're out on winning next year. I just don't see them going above 6-6 unless everything just hits perfect coming back. And again, you're going to have to overpay. Some of the stuff that I've been told by other people I'm like, you got to be kidding me, talking about the price of players at certain spots. I'm like, that's just completely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Where Auburn's at with their roster, there's no way, unless they're spending about 60, that's not going to happen. They're not going to even sniff getting into the SEC title race like I thought they might be able to. It's just not going to happen. So I think they're going to punt on next year, spend the money on recruiting, and at least have a decent team, try to get to a bowl. But I think Cam Coleman puts Golesh behind the 8 ball. They got to smoke it with the 27 class, which they can absolutely do. But I think it's going to be a pretty tough sled in the next year.
Do you think in an Alex Golesh system, and that, look, I want Cam Coleman on this roster. I'm going to be very clear.
Sure.
But to use that as the crux of why Auburn could slip, or what did you say, punting on winning or giving up on winning for 20? I forgot. I don't want to misquote what you just said, but you hinted at that.
Punting on next season.
Punting on next season. Thank you. Should you use a 10th-ish of your payroll on a wide receiver in this Alex Golesh system?
That's a great question. But if he wanted that much money and he walked, again, I'm not mad at Auburn. I know they made a very good offer. I'm not mad at that specific situation. It's more the totality that you kind of mentioned earlier, because the Southeastern Conference is such a gauntlet. And next year they pick up Florida, pick up LSU. Vandy is all of a sudden a good program. I mean, who knew? And you still got Bama and Georgia. You can't be depth deprived and go through that schedule and we see anything above 6 or 7 wins. And that's linear with everything goes right. Even with Byrum Brown, who's blocking for him? Who are the defensive line?
Next week, they've got to build an O-line.
Which position do I always tell you, Zach, that is really awful in the transfer portal every year? Which one is that? That would be offensive line. And this is the worst one I've seen yet.
Yeah.
It's god-awful.
Yeah, no tackles don't typically enter, for sure. For sure. Yeah, there's a few guys that can compete for spots, but you need to have those position battles across the line, for sure. For sure. All right, so
what if you have 1 or 2 guys get banged up?
Which will happen on the O-line, for sure. At some point. Might be through spring, might be through summer, might be through fall camp, might be in season, but that will happen. It's impossible for it not to. All right, what should expectations be starting Friday and the following 2 weeks after that for Auburn? That's next, right here on Locked on Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action gets going. So before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour, or even Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time's the best place to buy tickets. Doesn't matter if it's for Auburn basketball. Doesn't matter if it's for Auburn baseball that'll be here before you know it. Of course, the NBA, NFL. It's a great time. It's a great time of year when it comes to sports and also concerts. And if you want to go see a show, whatever it might be, Game Time has you covered. I love being able to see the view from my seat before buying. So I knew exactly what I was getting. And you also know exactly what you're paying because the price includes all the fees up front, which makes the whole process stress-free. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Brian Smith, host of The Portal. Your general expectations for Auburn should be what, Brian, as soon as it opens on Friday?
Be aggressive. They don't have any choice, and I'm sure they've got a plan. The USF kids, I'm sure you've covered this with Charlie Five and everybody else. Look, they're going to get some of those guys. And there's some pretty darn good players. I watched USF a few times this year. I am a massive Byrum Brown fan. If he doesn't end up at Auburn, we need to have another kind of podcast. Probably won't be very friendly either.
Yeah. I mean, the Deuce situation is like much more understandable with the assumption of Byrum Brown. If that doesn't happen, then yeah, a different conversation should happen for sure.
Absolutely. They got to get a backup though. You know, They can't go into the season with a couple of quarterbacks. And on top of that,
yeah, there'll be plenty of those. There'll be plenty of those.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
My question is very simple. You lost multiple D tackles, one out of eligibility, Blockton. I don't know what it was. I guess money, but I thought he had at least
his contract was apparently ridiculous.
I'm not surprised because they had to overpay to try to get back into the mix. You called it the suck tax. Probably several schools that were in that mix, and you saw a lot of teams punting on their roster. You're doing the same thing Auburn is. But Golesh made the statement, we're in a race against ourselves to win. And then they started cutting payroll. That just really puzzled me. So the question becomes, can you get the O lineman and D lineman you need without completely overpaying? Zach, I'm going to ask you, you think Auburn can do that? I don't doubt they're going to try. It's not like Auburn's more than money or coaches.
Yes, I do. I do think so. There are a few positions that I'm concerned about. O-line, I think with like better play calling and a scheme that makes sense, that would fix some things. Absolutely. You're going to need some tackles that can move bodies for sure. Cale Ellis, you feel good about him being your center. I'm fascinated with Tyler Johnson. And then, they really like Ty Buster. Are some of those guys ready? But to me, I think they're going to be able to get the bodies on the O-line. D-line, I'm a little bit more concerned with. Because you don't have that guy. I mean, if you have a Keldric, it makes everybody better, right? And they've had a good track record of being able to get productive edge guys out of the portal. It's a different staff, but you still have Durkin kind of leading the way, especially with linebackers. So I think that gives you a shot. But interior D-line is going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky. And I'm sure that's this way across the country. You look at some of the interior defensive linemen that they added, even just last year, Jay Hardy, James Ash, Dallas Walker, they're fine. They're fine. There's a lot of just fine guys, but are you going to be able to get a dude? And that's a question worth asking. Can Jared Smith be that guy? Can Malik Autry be that guy? Can Jordan Crawford be that guy? Maybe, but it's all potential.
Sure. My question is this. If you think that they can, you still don't have the benefit of a spring portal to back yourself up. You're
Correct.
Guessing. That's unfortunate, but everybody's in the same boat. It's not just an Auburn problem. LSU's going through this right now. Florida's going through this, etc. But the good news for Auburn, they've got some guys in that freshman class. I'm a big fan of Malik's. I mean, all the kids they brought in can play. Now they got to take a step forward. Do they have any leadership at D tackle? Do they have any depth? That's expensive. And to put it in perspective for what Zach and I are talking about last year, I'm not going to go into specifics. There was a player that was pretty decent through his college career, went to another program. He got close to $2 million, and he's not a pass rusher. He was never a dominant player. He got close to $2 million to play defense tackle. And the prices have gone up. You need a couple. This is rough. I mean, they need those young guys to really hit. And then a linebacker, you paid X. He's a heck of a player. I love him. But how many other guys do you have? A linebacker you're comfortable with. And then in the back end, you lost both corners.
Linebacker, I'm not worried about. I mean, you lost Robert Woodyard, but you bring back X. DeMarcus Riddick still here. Elijah Melendez, Bryce Diaz. And then, your incoming freshman, like we like Wilkes a lot. Shadarius
yeah.
Tootle, Adam Balagoon Ali. Linebacker, I'm not concerned with. Defensive back is fascinating because you lose Jay Crawford, you lose Kayan Lee, Strader, but I haven't heard anything about Champ Anthony, which I think at this point is good. And then you've seen some cryptic posts about Eric Winters and New Boy Fagans and Blake Woodby. Rayshawn Pleasant came on towards the end of last year. You still need more, but like you look at all the departures and then you still look at where the room is and it's like, okay, like you're not starting over there.
No, you're definitely not. You just don't have like, I know that you and I were doing a podcast literally when you stopped our show, when Jay Crawford and we literally, for those that don't know, we stopped the show and ditched it and went live.
I was in shambles.
Yes, you were.
Most embarrassing thing I've ever put on the internet.
But at the same time, we were honest and like, this is not good for Auburn. Well, I think that they're pretty good in the back end. But again, who's that veteran? They're not going to have one, and that's a big question mark. Like all the guys you mentioned, I covered in some way. They're all very talented. Not having a veteran, and you said something I've forgotten about. People forget just how impactful Faulk was on every freaking play. If you're the opposing OC and quarterback, you didn't make an account for that young man, bad things happen to you. He ain't there. It's called the National Football League draft. So they also got to I know you can't replace Faulk, but that's still a part of the process as well.
Yeah, and the guy who was going to step in there, Amaris,
he's gone.
Portal. Right. So
I just don't see the high-end guys. They got plenty of talent. They don't have anybody high-end on that defense right now. That's kind of concerning.
Yeah, you do have guys that could turn into high-end. I mean, obviously Atkins, Elijah Melendez is incredible. Kind of wonder if they put Riddick more on the edge this year because of need, which would make sense. That's what he's done best when healthy, is rush the passer. Jared Smith could be great. I mean, some of the glimpses that we saw from him as a freshman, he could be that dude this year.
By the way, I should have said Atkins is already a great player. I should have mentioned him. That good for you mentioned that.
You're good.
But Jared is the one I'm most interested in. Can't teach, like when you walk up to Jared and shake his hand, that is not a normal human being.
Yeah, like if I told you Jared Smith, Jordan Crawford, Malik Autry, Elijah Melendez, Blake Woodby, if I told you all of those guys were second or third team all SEC players, would any of those shock you?
No. Physically? Hell no. Like every one of them was
as far as like, could they put it together this year?
Oh, yeah. And out of those kids, like most of them I like know to a certain degree and like they want it.
Fagans, Winters.
Yeah. I mean, Winters like really wants it. He's one of those guys that's a little different. Like Woodby really wants it. That's important, especially now that they're going to be pushed to the forefront. And I'm sure if you're the USF kids or the other guys, they'll get. But if they started them, let me ask you, would you trade right now, going 7-5 next year and a ton of sophomores and stuff playing and having like 80% of your starters back next year, the year after? I think if you're an Auburn fan, that's not a terrible thing because none of those guys can turn pro.
Yeah, I mean, I would take 7-5 right now without having traded anything.
Okay, that I could see, but again, where's the depth? That is like they've got to hit and probably gonna have to overextend themselves financially to do it on some portal pieces. It may be guys from Akron or anything else, but look at Indiana. That's all they've done, and they've killed it that way.
Yeah, so. I think some of the overspending, and this is partially my fault. I think that's a little overblown. I think they're comfortable spending where it makes sense. But like you can't overspend on a guy who's getting just like way over market, or a guy who caused off-field problems, or a guy who entered the portal last year and you had to beg him to come back, and now you're doing it again. You can't overspend on those guys. Yeah, you can't.
Let me help you.
If you're trying to shock the system and build a culture,
there it is.
You can't do it. You can't keep letting that happen. Brad Law, I did a show with him earlier in the week, and I've used it a few times. He's like, if your curfew is 9 p.m. and you get home at midnight and there's no repercussions, Do you have a curfew? No, you don't. So the more stories that come out and the more stuff that gets posted, I'm like, okay, yeah, we need to start over. And we're not really starting over. It's still in a better spot than it was when Freeze found it. So,
oh, by a million miles. But just to finish off here, really simple. I agree with the culture thing. I just think that they need to figure out a way not to lose as many. And part of it was Freeze and some of those people paying when they probably should have bled the program a little bit, but they were trying to save their jobs. So that's reality.
I get it. Yep.
So we'll see what Golesh can do.
Yep. Brian, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Locked on the portal. Just put up an update. Got some Auburn stuff in there and a bunch of other schools with Under Armour. I'm in Orlando right now. For those of you who don't notice my background, it's because I'm in a hotel. And much to my chagrin in Orlando for the Under Armour event, I interviewed about 50, 60 kids today. Programs around the country. So that's all going on. Check out the Portal podcast.
Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.